Today, I would like to share with you some of the work that I've been doing related to drug discovery. But I also want to say from the start that even though my title says artificial intelligence, you should think of it as broadly encompassing a range of computational technologies. We know that for the past few decades, there has been a tremendous growth in computing power, access to the internet, exponential growth of data, and also there has been increased access to numerous kinds of technologies. So in the biological sciences, gene sequencing technologies are allowing us to profile organisms at a rate that was not possible before. So really, it is about the convergence of these technologies, and artificial intelligence, or AI, is one of the tools that can help us to integrate all of these emerging biological data sets to better understand disease mechanisms and also discover new drugs and vaccines at a faster pace. And really, the reason I believe this, that AI and computational technologies are powerful, actually starts when I was still an undergraduate student in Kenya, and got a chance to spend some time at the Institute of Primary Research in Nairobi, where I was very much interested in HIV, as well as specific DNA sequences in the human genome, and how HIV could interact with our own human genome. But because I was a student, undergraduate at that time, I, of course, did not have access to a good lab where we could do HIV experiments. But I just thought, what if I could go on a computer and look at the HIV sequences, which there are already tens of thousands of HIV sequences online. And also there was a draft, there was also like the draft human genome that was published in 2002. And so I had an idea that maybe I could use all of this open data and computing, even though I didn't even own a computer, but still I could go to the cyber cafe and access this data to begin to understand whether we could use the human genome to understand how HIV drug resistance evolves. And actually, from doing this just for a few months, I was able to come up with some results, which I ended up presenting in the US in 2003. And coming to the US at that time, being an undergraduate student, attending a conference that was really a conference that brought together the leading companies and scientists in HIV drug discovery, I immediately realized that biology is so complex that even experts who have spent decades studying a problem, they might be blind to certain aspects of the problem. And my research highlighted that actually even the many people who had worked on HIV drug discovery did not appreciate the potential that the human genome could help us in understanding how drug resistance evolves. So the reason I bring this is that from this experience, I became very convinced back in 2002 that whenever we have biological problems and we convert them into data or information problems, then it means that we can solve them at the speed of computing. And because we know that computing speed is increasing exponentially, and also access to computing is increasing, it means that potentially this could be a way of solving biological problems, understanding disease mechanisms, or designing new drugs in a much faster way. And of course, when you think about it, the idea that information processing is fundamental to human progress is not limited to biology. If you look at our own history, from the time of our ancestors 3.4 million years ago, beginning to make simple tools, you can say that tools were not information, but the idea that one human could make a tool and pass that tool, or pass the knowledge of making that tool to another human, would enable humans to make better and better tools over generations. And so today, where we are in the moment of history, computing is allowing us to process information at a faster scale and also in synergy with what the human brain can do. And so my research focuses on 3 areas. So one area is how can we apply AI to understand fundamental biological questions. So for example, understanding the mechanisms behind diseases. And then I also have an interest in how do we apply AI for drug discovery, and how can we apply AI to addressing global health, important global health problems like neglected tropical diseases. And I am affiliated with the Center for Global Health Equity, which I wanted to tell you a little history about it because the center was founded by a gift by Tachi and Leslie Yamada. Unfortunately, we lost Tachi recently, but Tachi was at one time a chair of internal medicine, the department where I am at the University of Michigan, before you would head on to be the first president of Global Health for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And Tachi really was instrumental in the founding of the global of the grand challenges explorations, which continues to run to this day. And so the center is actually just about 3 years old, and the center is focused on global health equity, establishing collaborations not just within the University of Michigan, but also like globally, including in Nairobi, where we have a strong collaboration with Aga Khan University, funded by a $6.5 million grant from NIH to explore how machine learning can be applied to maternal and neonatal health. The Center for Global Health Equity has 4 focus areas: strengthening systems for health, as well as understanding the social and environmental determinants of health. So this has to do with issues such as food security, economic development, and how climate change can impact global health. We are also interested in the development of technical solutions. So obviously, data science and AI are part of the kinds of technical solutions that we believe can have a huge impact on global health, and also addressing inequities that have existed in health as well as in society in general, including the need to reduce biases in the representation of women in science as well as in global health. So coming back to drug discovery, we know that drug discovery is a long road. It takes many years, if not 10 to 15 years to develop a new drug. But typically, the start of drug discovery begins with the identification of a protein. So for example, here we are looking at the structure of a protein, and understanding the structures of protein is typically the first step of trying to develop a new drug, because you have to know what protein or target you're trying to address for a particular disease. But actually, coming from a simple idea of identifying a protein target to bringing a drug to market can take 10 to 15 years, which is a really long time and not really feasible when you're dealing with a pandemic like COVID-19. It's also very expensive to bring a new drug to market. The cost typically around the scale of $1 to $2 billion to do that. So it takes incredibly long to develop a new drug, and it is also too costly. So this is a huge problem, because when it takes that long time and also it's that too costly, it means that developing drugs in a way that they can be accessible across the world is really challenging. And I want to emphasize that I believe that inequities in access to drugs actually begin at the drug discovery stage. And if we really want to address the inequitable access to drugs, then we should start addressing the inequities that occur at the discovery stage. First of all, because if there's any inequity that occurs in the discovery stage, that inequity will be perpetuated up to when the drug goes into the market. So how can this happen? So first, at the drug discovery stage, the question is, who leads the initial drug discovery stage? I think the composition of the teams, including the nature of the technical teams, their expertise, their gender, all of these issues eventually impact what drug is developed. Another issue, even at the discovery stage, is that the primary motivation of whoever is trying to discover that drug is really important. So if their motivation is to attain market dominance, then it means that they will try to protect their IP or intellectual property at all costs, even if it means that it leads to inequities of the drug once it is released in the clinic. And of course, we've seen that with COVID-19. So by the time the drug already reaches the market, if you try to just address the inequities at that stage, then it's incredibly difficult because the person who discovered the drug has certain rights to the drug that you can't just take away. The other issue is that where does the drug discovery or development and manufacturing happen? What country did the initial discovery happen in? And this is important because where the drug discovery happens will determine also the initial market that the company is trying to target. It will impact who the initial clinical trial participants will be, and where those clinical trials will be performed. And typically, of course, if a clinical trial is performed, say in the US first, then it means that most likely the approval of that drug will be in the US first. The other thing to consider is that if a drug is developed by big pharma versus a startup or government or public-private partnerships, all of this also affects how accessible this drug will be. And we've seen wonderful initiatives that involve public-private partnerships, such as the DNDI, Drugs for Neglected Diseases initiative. And in addition to who and where the drug discovery happens, how the initial drug discovery, development, or manufacturing is performed is also crucial, because these initial steps determine the eventual cost of that particular drug. And so this is really why I believe that to really ensure that essential drugs can be available or accessible to all, we need to rethink how we perform drug discovery. And so just to show how this could impact COVID, back in 2020, we started tracking the vaccine developers for COVID vaccines. So we tracked globally who was doing research on how to develop COVID-19 vaccines. As you can see, a lot of vaccine developers are actually based in the US as well as Europe, and we have very little representation of developers in Africa. And so this has an impact on the access to COVID-19 vaccines that we have seen. And if we go to COVID-19 therapeutics and we try to look at clinical trials, this is from clinicaltrials.gov, we see that, again here, that most of the clinical trials for COVID-19 drugs have been in the US and very little in Africa, especially considering that the population in Africa is much larger than the population in the United States. So we have to ask ourselves, did these factors, so factors to do with where the initial COVID-19 therapeutics and vaccines were designed, or who was involved in those initial discovery steps of COVID-19 therapeutics? Did these issues impact or contribute to the inequities in access to COVID-19 therapeutics that we've seen? And I think the answer is yes, that because the initial discovery of the COVID-19 therapeutics and vaccines were led by companies. Obviously, in the US, there was incredible support from a government-led initiative, the Operation Warp Speed, for COVID-19 vaccine development. But we see that because these initial steps were primarily driven to delivering solutions in the US, it laid a foundation for the current inequities that we've seen in COVID-19 therapeutics vaccines. So I believe that AI can accelerate and reduce costs at all stages of drug discovery and development, and also at cost of drugs and access to new medicines. The other important thing is that AI can also reduce the time it takes to develop new drugs, which should have been obviously very important for a new pandemic such as COVID-19. We saw that there was incredible success in developing COVID-19 vaccines, which took much shorter time. But COVID-19 drugs have been more challenging to develop, and I believe that AI can have a huge impact in this area. And in the different types of drug discovery, so AI can help in de novo drug design, which is basically the design of completely new molecular structures. AI can also help to predict the potential toxicities and adverse events that might result from a drug in development. We know that one of the main reasons why drugs fail is that they end up being too toxic for patients. If anything, a large part of the cost of drug discovery is actually the cost of failure, because 90% of drugs in development fail to reach the clinic. AI can also help in informing animal to human models, because normally during preclinical studies, animal models are used to see whether, for example, a drug is toxic, but sometimes the observations in animals do not translate to humans. And this is indeed why many diseases have been cured in mice, but not in humans. AI can also help in dosing of drugs, which can also be a challenging issue for new drugs. Then, as the drug advances through the later stages into clinical trials, so phase 1 studies, which are studies to look at the safety of a particular drug, AI can help in the design of those clinical trials. AI can help also introducing the number of participants required in a clinical trial And AI can do this through the creation of digital twins, which are basically sort of virtual patient populations. And this can be used to perform an in silico clinical trial in synergy with field-based clinical trial. AI can also actually help in the manufacturing of new therapeutics, because one of the challenges of manufacturing has to do with the supply of reagents, and AI can help identify what are the alternative reagents you can use to manufacture a drug or a vaccine. And this could, of course, have an incredible impact on the cost of a drug, because part of the cost of a drug comes from where it is manufactured from and whether it has to be transported, whether it has to be stored, and AI can play an important role in this. And of course, in the market, AI can play a big role in supply chain optimization. So finding the optimal ways to distribute a drug in places of need. So I'll give an example of one of the projects that I have been leading on developing AI approaches for accelerating discovery of new drugs against pandemic viruses, including COVID-19. And this is a project we call preemptive or pandemic response emergency preparedness therapeutics initiatives. And the goals of these projects are to develop broadly acting antiviral drugs to SARS-CoV-2, as well as other viruses that might emerge in future. And what differentiates us from many other AI projects for drug discovery is that we believe that fundamental biology is very crucial when we leverage AI to design new drugs or to understand diseases. And so our strategy is focusing on using AI to design small molecules of drugs that can stimulate an intrinsic immune response system that exists in all human cells. And this intrinsic immune system in human cells typically helps human cells to respond against any virus. And this is indeed why we get exposed to tens of thousands of viruses every day, and yet we don't fall sick, because in most cases our body is actually very successful in defending itself against viruses. So what if we could take advantage of this innate immune system that already exists within humans and try to design small molecules that can modulate this defense system? And just to give a quick overview of the project, so we use fundamental biology, and we've used very large public data sets looking at how different small molecules, or looking at the effects of tens of thousands of small molecules on human cells. Then using that information to train AI systems to generate new small molecules, which we then are working to validate in the lab. And so I'll just give one example. So this is an AI-generated molecule. And what interested us about this AI-generated molecule is that basically it's similar to a molecule produced by our own cells to defend against viruses. This molecule is called oligoadenylate. And oligoadenylate is produced by human cells as a response to viral infection, and it helps human cells to get rid of of the viral infections. In fact, we know now from genetic studies that the production of this oligoadenylate by human cells is important in response to COVID-19, because in COVID-19 patients who have mutations in this pathway, they are at more risk for developing severe COVID-19. So we believe that these kinds of molecules could have a potential in helping to fight viruses such as SARS-CoV-2. This is a project that is still ongoing. So we're working with our collaborators at University of California, San Diego, to do some laboratory tests of these AI-designed small molecules to see how active they are on SARS-CoV-2 and in future other viruses as well. And so we're also interested in how to apply AI also to figure out how to make drugs that are more orally bioavailable, because orally bioavailable drugs are more accessible to patients, since they don't need to go to a hospital to be on IV. So patients can take these drugs at home, and this has been a challenge for COVID-19 drugs. So I'll give another example. The first example was about AI in drug discovery for viruses. And I'll give another example of how we're using AI in modeling drug resistance emergence. And about 3 years ago, together with Caleb Kipkurui, who is at ICIPE, we surveyed the literature to try and understand how the global health community uses emerging computational techniques like AI. And so we were very surprised to find out that in general, the global health community lags behind the cancer community in terms of how quickly they adopt new computational techniques. So if we look at techniques like convolutional neural neural networks, a form of AI, you see that from the time the first paper in cancer that was published using this kind of AI system, it took 6 years for the global health community to also apply the same method. So I think this is really unfortunate, because these new methods can help us to come up with better models. So how can we change this this rapidly? So we had an idea that what if we could take some data set from a global health problem and open it to anyone around the world, and ask anyone to take that data and try to apply any technique they have in mind, and see whether they can build some computational models that can take this data from malaria parasites and try to predict whether those parasites are resistant to artemisinin or not. And so this project, which we called Malaria Dream Challenge, brought together several collaborators, so including the University of Notre Dame, where I previously was, as well as IBM Research, where I was also a scientist previously. And so the goal of this Malaria Dream Challenge, which is what we call the project, was to see whether by opening global health data to anyone around the world, can we accelerate the adoption of AI techniques in understanding and predicting antimalarial drug resistance evolution. And if we do that, could it be a way of attracting AI or machine learning expertise across the world to malaria research? Because we know that there are few AI researchers working in the field of malaria and other global health problems. And if we are successful in this, and this can serve as a proof of concept, that by organizing these competitions, which are normally called data science challenges, could it be a platform for accelerating the development of state-of-art benchmarked computational models for global health problems? And so in the Malaria Dream Challenge, we are focused on challenging the data science community to use genomic data from malaria parasites obtained in Southeast Asia, where artemisinin resistance is more widespread, and basically see if by using this data, they can build computational models that can predict artemisinin resistance to these parasites. And we had two measures of resistance. So one measure is a measure called the IC50, which is a measure based on laboratory experiments. And the other measure that we considered was the parasite clearance rate, which is measured in patients. And so I'll just share some of the key lessons we learned. So by opening up this data just for a period of 3 months, we actually saw an incredible diversity of solutions, including solutions that we have not seen being applied in malaria research. So over just these 3 months, 31 data scientists from 31 countries were able to volunteer their time to analyze this data. We had nearly 100 different kinds of computational models submitted towards this challenge. And also we saw that there was really diverse modeling approaches. So even modeling approaches that were just emerging, such as automated machine learning. So yeah, so I think some of the important lessons we learn from this is that basically by using this approach of inviting the global community to work on a common problem, it could really accelerate the way we build computational models. It could also actually lead to better computational models, because when you open it up to a large community, there's a chance that you attract talent that typically is not accessible within your own community of research. So I believe this model is applicable to many problems in global health, including development of disease epidemiology models. I also want to mention that it's important that also we engage diverse communities across the world. And so as part of this Malaria Dream Challenge initiative, we also had a chance to organize a hackathon in Johannesburg in coordination with IBM research. And in this hackathon, we were able to bring students from 8 different African countries, spend a week trying to bring new ideas into the analysis of this malaria data set. And actually by doing this, the student group was able to identify certain challenges in the data that needed to be addressed, and so providing very important feedback for researchers working in this to also say that I think we need the participation of a broad range of communities in drug discoveries, even at the early stage of drug discovery. And so epidemiology can in fact also have a big impact on drug discovery. And I know that SEMA is doing several developing several epidemiological models. And so I believe that by looking at the intersection of epidemiology and drug discovery, we could actually end up developing better drugs. Because epidemiology, of course, is important in tracking emerging viruses or even like existing infectious diseases like malaria. Epidemiology can also help us at the initial drug discovery stage to figure out how best to dose a drug and how best to mitigate drug resistance. And so, in summary, I think that AI can accelerate and reduce costs at several stages of drug development. So the increasing adoption of AI is promising because AI is also becoming more accessible, and hopefully this will also lead to more diverse participation of scientists across the world in the early stages of drug discovery. So Africa can also play a leading role in drug discovery. And also, the potential for AI in drug discovery is not limited to a single disease. The same principles will be applied to a broad range of diseases, including malaria as well as emerging viruses. And with that, thank you all. I hope I'll be able to visit SEMA sometime in future, and to meet some of you in person. And thank you again for the